Hey, we're now live. Apparently, at least we're live on Twitch. Let's see if we're live on YouTube. It looks like we are. We've got the wrong titles on there, but you know, these things happen. I'd set everything up, and yeah, it didn't work quite the way we planned. So you've got the wrong titles on the videos. But anyway, welcome everybody. We have gone live. We actually did go live a couple of minutes ago, but we actually didn't go live, and that was my fault because I never pushed the big go live button. But we are live now. So welcome to our Chocolatey Product Spotlight live stream for December. Gary, you've heard all this just a couple of minutes ago, so just bear with me as I repeat myself. But it was a dry run, which is always good. So we have 2 live streams every month. Sometimes there's more than that. We'll talk about that coming up. But we have 2 live streams every month. We have the Product Spotlight live stream, and that's the live stream where we look at all the product things to do with Chocolatey, all the recent releases, all the new features we're looking at, and things we've got planned for the future that's coming up. So that's all about our products. And myself and Gary do most of those. We sometimes bring in other members of the team. We want to bring in other members of the team as well, because this isn't just about me and Gary. And we're doing more of that next year as well. And then we have another live stream that we do on the 3rd Thursday of the month, and that's what we call our Chocolatey community coffee break. And that's where we interview or chat to, interview sounds bad, chat to members of the community. We chat to package maintainers. We chat to anybody from, you know, the community, as I said, package maintainer, anybody really that is involved in any of that, we chat to them and we talk about the community and we talk about all the things that are happening in there. So I've said community quite a lot there, but you get the idea. So this is our first one. This is the 1st of December. So happy December Day, I suppose. And obviously we've got Christmas coming up. We're going to do this product live stream, and this will be the last Chocolatey live stream between myself and Gary and the team that we'll be doing for this year. We do have another live stream where it's myself, Gary, and Maurice Kevinar, who we interviewed. Oh, was that back in September? Let me just have a quick look. I have a list. Yes, September. Great memory. We chatted to Maurice back in September. So Maurice is a Veeam Vanguard. Is that right, Gary? Is that what we call him? Right. And he and Veeam are putting together Chocolatey December Chocolatey month, where they're going to ask some questions. There's some prizes, and we're going to chat with Veeam, in particular Maurice, on the 13th of December at the same time as this starts here. If you want to find more information about that, if you go to our Discord page, our Discord server is what I'm going to say, and that's https://ch0.co/community. Okay, so that's C for cat, H for hotel, 0, C for cat, O for orange, /community. And you'll be able to join our Discord server, and in the events tab at the events channel, you will see that event coming up. You get the times and dates on there. I'm just going to double check that in actual fact it is at 5 p.m. UTC. And it is at 5 p.m. UTC on Tuesday, December the 13th. If you jump into Twitch or YouTube chat, you'll be able to see a link there as well that one of the team have kindly put up for us to our Discord server. So we normally do a product live stream. We talk about products. We talk about all the things that's happening. But what we're going to do for the last one of December is we're actually going to talk about the whole year, what we've done, where we started, where we came from, and everything that's happened in between. We actually started these live streams on the first one was in February. I think it was the 3rd of February. And we've done one almost every month, a product live stream. Sometimes we have people not been around, we've not been able to do one, but we've done an actual live stream every month, whether it's this one or whether it's a community coffee break one. We've done a live stream every month. And in October, we did 6 live streams. So there you go. For Hacktoberfest, there was 4 of those. And we did a coffee break and a product spotlight live stream as well. So we've done a lot this year. We've done, I'm just going to count these up, 19 live streams this year. Actually, quite a lot. I didn't realize it was that many. I've got them listed out, but I didn't actually add them up. So we've done 8 product live streams. We've done 1 birthday live stream. That was on the 21st of March. That was Chocolatey's 11th birthday. We've done 6 coffee break live streams, which is the one I was telling you about. That's where the community get involved and we get involved with the community. And we've done 4 Hacktoberfest live streams as well. The Hacktoberfest ones we did every week, starting on the 4th. So it was the 4th, 11th, 18th, and 25th. Of October, and there was various members of the team there. I wasn't in any of them, which is great. Gary was in one of them, but we had Corey and James and Rain look at doing them. I've actually missed one out. We actually have done another live stream. We've done 1 coding live stream, which I'm just going to type in so you can hear my keyboard as well. And that was on Tuesday just past, and that was with Josh. And that was the first of those that we had done. And what we're going to do is look at doing one of them maybe once every 2 or 3 months. We'll look at doing a coding live stream where one of the Chocolatey team will jump on and do a piece of work on open source. So Josh was actually adding Chocolatey GUI config and Chocolatey GUI features into our Chocolatey Ansible collection. And it's as has been mentioned in the chat there, Josh is actually from New Zealand, so he's a time traveler, and I don't understand this time zone thing. It hurts my head a little bit. So maybe he did it on his Wednesday, which is everybody else's Tuesday. I'm not sure, but you get the idea. So that went down really well. So we're going to do more of those in the future. The next one we're looking at doing is February. So if you're interested in those, subscribe to our channel on YouTube and Twitch, or follow us on Twitch, and you'll get the notification. If you hit the bell notification, you get that notification where we're actually streaming or when we update that, and you can keep an eye on when those occur. And that's the same for all of our streams as well. So I've done an awful lot of talking there. I did an even lot more talking, but none of you seen it because we weren't live. But Gary.
Hi.
Before I jump to you, we should probably introduce who we are. If you've never been on these streams before, you'll have no idea. Also, I can't believe you don't know who Gary is, but you probably don't know who I am. Gary's an international superstar and celebrity. Everybody probably knows who he is, but me, yeah. My name's Paul Broadith. I'm a technical engineer and manager at Chocolatey Software. So all of the kind of products that you'll use, Chocolatey products, me and my team are responsible for those. And Gary's well, actually, I won't say what Gary is because he'll say it himself in a second, but Gary's heavily involved in that as well. Gary, you do your bit.
Hi, thank you. So my name is Gary Ewan Park. I am a senior software engineer here at Chocolatey Software. I've been around Chocolatey and its various applications for a while now. But yeah, I hang out in these live streams with Paul, where he seemingly makes me look good, is what he said earlier.
And somebody has to go.
As Corey has pointed out in the chat there, I am the single person, seemingly, according to the scoreboard, who knows how to correctly pronounce nupkeg. So it's that's all I've got.
I mean, that leads us nicely. I mean, you'd probably see me reaching over to grab it, but that leads us nicely to this. If you've watched any of our, I'm trying to see if I can see it on camera. If you watched any of our coffee break live streams, you will see this pop up. And this is actually Gary's wrong pronunciation of NUPKG, Board of Shame. Unfortunately, it's proving more and more difficult to write on this as it goes on. I think the pen's drying out. And yeah, we need to spend more on props. That's what we need to do. So at the moment, how you pronounce NUPKGs, you heard Gary saying there, he pronounces it nupkeg, which is actually wrong. The wrong way to pronounce it. And this is, I don't know if you can see here, but that's that column there. I'm trying to do this without the very first column there says nupkeg. This is terrible. We need to get better props. This is there's nobody in that column. So Gary is the only one who actually pronounces it that way. The actual correct pronunciation of NUPKG is new package because it comes from nougat. Gary, yeah, I thought you would know this. And Manfred, Maurice, and David all said that's how you're supposed to pronounce it. I'm not allowed a vote in that, but it's also the way I pronounce it. And everybody else pronounces it that way, with the exception of James and Corey. Actually, I think Corey says nup kilo. There he said that in the chat. He's jumped ahead. I can't remember what James says, but it's an abomination of something. like that. It's not really anything that anybody would ever pronounce. So I think, to be fair on that, I win and you lose. So you're a loser.
The end result of that is that you've obviously forked out a lot of money to our guests.
Not on the whiteboard, clearly.
To make them, because I think David actually said that I was the first person that he'd heard pronounce it correctly, and he used it, but you told him that you had to say it the other way, is what I heard on that stream. So yeah, it's we can continue it on into next year, and I can pick the guests for our upcoming shows. I think that's how we're going to do it.
No, I think what you've just said there as well is libelous, and I think you'll be hearing from my lawyers. I think, is that not the classic line we have to say? That's completely libelous. The guests are random as well. I've got a list, and I randomly pick from that list as to who I think should, and I always ask them first of all how they pronounce.
You pre-interview them, yeah.
I do, and that's the only question I ask them. Pretty much is that. And if they pass, then they get on the stream. So, I don't know. That's the breaks, I suppose. So Gary's lost that particular one. We'll maybe start that again next year. With a better whiteboard or a better green screen for me, whatever, so that people can actually see it. But yeah, so that's that 1-1 for the year. So 3-0 to me. And what I was wanting to do today is look at over the year of what we've looked at releasing initially. Initially I want to look at what we've released. So we want to kind of look at the product live streams. We've started calling them product spotlights, which I think is a better term for us to use for that. But initially we call them product live streams, and that's what I've got written on here. Same thing, just a nicer name. So the very first one we did was in February. We did a Chocolatey CLI release of 0.12.1. That just seems so long ago now that we'd actually done that. Gary, that was quite a big release for us in terms of, it was the last one before version 1. Which we'll come to in a second.
Correct. So in terms of what we actually released in that version, there was very little actually went out, but it was kind of the precursor to the work where we said we're doing a baseline release of what Chocolatey is, what its features are, and we're going to ship a 1.0.0 release of it. So yeah, there was a couple of bug fixes that went into that release, but other than that, it was more prep work for the upcoming 1.0.0 release.
Yeah. And it was, I mean, we knew we had version 1 planned. So for me, it was quite an exciting release, as it was the last of the 0 releases as well. So the big one that we had was 0.10.15, and that would been out for, I can't remember how long. Was it 18 months between that and the next release? Something like that, yeah. And then we started doing our releases in a much quicker cadence. So that was, for me, that was quite an exciting one, as I said, because we'd version 1 planned, and it was exciting to kind of get the last of the 0 releases out the way. Those pre-releases, I suppose you would call them. But in March, then we did another product live stream, and we looked at Chocolatey GUI. Now, Chocolatey GUI is something we don't look at so much in these streams, because we concentrate on Chocolatey CLI, and so does the community. A lot of the community, it's all about Chocolatey CLI, but sometimes I think it's nice to give Chocolatey GUI a little bit of love and a little bit of attention. And I think Chocolatey GUI is also one of those products that's close to you, Gary, because you did an awful lot of development work on that, especially in the early days.
Yeah, I mean, so Chocolatey GUI, if you look back at the history of Chocolatey GUI, I took over maintenance of it from Chrissy in the community quite early on. And then it got developed with some help from Richard Simpson and various other people along the way. Jan Krager, I never know how to pronounce that name. I apologize, Jan, if I didn't get it right. But yeah, there's been lots of work done on it, and it's the GUI version of Chocolatey, for those that don't know. So it gives you a user interface that you can interact with to install, upgrade, uninstall packages, etc. But yeah, the release in February it'd been a while since the last one, and there was a couple of big changes, a couple of new features put into there. And yeah, it was some of it was to do with underlying changes to framework. So for example, that version of Chocolatey GUI dependency on .NET Framework 4.8, but that was because user interface framework that we use, which is called Mat Apps, it had a dependency on .NET Framework 4.8. And because we wanted to make use of high DPI functionality within Mat Apps, we opted to make that breaking change in that release. So no, it was a reasonably big release. If you look at the release notes, there was quite a few different features and bug fixes and improvements that went into that one. So yeah, it was a long time coming for some of it, but yeah, it was a good release. I enjoyed that one.
Just a little bit of admin from our side. I've just fixed the titles. So I don't want pointing over there. They're over there for me. They won't be for you. They'll be in front of you. But yeah, the titles have been fixed. So we're no longer talking to David as we did in November. That was my fault. But yeah, so in March, we, as Gary just said, we released Chocolatey GUI and Chocolatey GUI license extension as well. And then we did a big live stream for the year. And that live stream included a number of Chocolatey releases as well. So on the 21st of March was Chocolatey's 11th birthday. And we celebrated with a live stream. There was no balloons. There was backgrounds with balloons, but no actual balloons. There was no cake, or at least I never got any cake. I didn't see any candles, probably a health and safety issue, to be fair. But we did release 5 different products. Versions of 5 different products. We released version 1 of Chocolatey CLI, which is a monumental milestone for Chocolatey. If you've been in the Chocolatey community and used Chocolatey for any length of time, you'll know there was a lot of zero versions. So 0, 10, 15, as I mentioned earlier, was the big one that had been around for a long time. Really stable, worked great. But, it had been around for a long time. We didn't get many features added there. So moving to version 1 of Chocolatey CLI was just a huge milestone for everybody at Chocolatey, everybody, including Rob Reynolds, founder of Chocolatey Software. He always wanted to get to that version, but we managed to get there on our 11th birthday. We also released a new version of Chocolatey licensed extension, which was version 4 of that. And Gary's just, we just talked about Chocolatey GUI 0.20. We also released a version 1 of that as well. And Chocolatey GUI license extension and Chocolatey Agent, all version 1s of those. So we brought them up to that baseline that you were talking about, Gary, where we've got version 1, and we can look forward, moving forward to change those versions. That, for you, Gary, what was that like, that version 1?
I mean, as you said, it was absolutely great that we finally got to the point where we were in a position where we could release it. So there was a lot of behind the scenes work that went into that release in terms of getting us to a point where we knew what we were testing, how we were testing it, how we could test it going forward to get to that baseline that you spoke about, to know that all the functionality that we've provided in that 1.0 release will continue to function and continue to function going into the subsequent releases. So there's a lot of behind the scenes work that went into it as well. But as you said, I mean, it's been 11 years since the first release of Chocolatey, and if you look at some of the code base, there's comments along the lines of, well, this will be removed in version 1, and that was for good reason. So there was a lot of work in the run up to there to mark things as obsolete that were going to be removed, remove the things that actually were to be removed. Now that got us into a little bit of problems. As with any major release, there's always issues that come with it. So the subsequent releases that we're probably going to come on to, there was bug fixes to fix things that we had inadvertently broken. But I guess that's the way things go in major releases like this. But we got past them, and it's been a really popular release. We've seen lots of people downloading it and using it, and yeah, I'm excited for the future, to be honest. Now that we've got into that 1.0 release, we're in a position where we can start to make other decisions about where we want to take the product and new functionality that we want to offer. So yeah, it's an exciting time. There's lots of stuff happening, lots of balls to be juggled, but yeah, no, it's a good time, exciting time to be involved.
It's just when you mentioned the downloads, it's very popular and a lot of people have downloaded it. Chocolatey itself has been downloaded 270 million times.
Yep.
Is that right? Yeah. And I'm just going to look at version 1. I know we're in version 1.20 now. I'm just curious about version 1. Yeah, there was 870,000 downloads of that. And the vast majority of those, because I remember it, were downloaded within the first 24 hours. People automatically updating, people wanting to update and updating manually. The reason we know that is we have to increase our server load at that particular point when we release a new version of Chocolatey, because our systems obviously are being hammered by people who are wanting to update, and that's fine, but that's how I remember it, is because we have to do that. So, and I'm curious actually of what the latest version is. Downloads of that, it will be
just over 1.5 million.
So it is 1.6 million, yeah. Downloads of that. So and that's, you know, that again, that's the vast majority of those are in the first 24 hours as well. So yeah, popular product. And particularly when we got to that version 1 as well, a lot of people have been waiting for that, so it was really popular then.
I think a couple of people in the community that we know kind of referred to the 0, 10, 15 release as the stable release of Chocolatey, because it had been around for so long. So no, getting to that kind of following the semantic versioning, where we're specifying that this is the public API of Chocolatey, and if there are any breaking changes, we will advertise those as a major release. It gives a little bit of credence to where we are as a product. So we've got to that 1.0 release. We have all the functionality that we wanted to deliver in that release, and then going forward, we can extend and improve on that through the next couple of releases that we're planning. So yeah, no, like I say, it's an exciting time to be involved in the product and shaping how we're going forward.
Yeah, no, agreed. And that takes us on to April, when we did just one product live stream. We didn't do a community coffee break at that time because we hadn't started them at that point. So I've just done a spoiler there. So in April, we did a product live stream around script builder. So we have a part of our Chocolatey community repository where you can actually build a list of packages that you want to install. You can add them to a bucket, if you want to call it that, or a shopping cart, as we kind of refer to it. And when you get to the end of that, you can select ways of installing those packages. So the way people are traditionally installing packages with Chocolatey is from the command line, just with CMD, or probably more popular is PowerShell. And you get the commands and how to do that. Just looking at Chocolatey, there it'd be Choco install Chocolatey. Well, using Script Builder, you can add, as I said, those packages to that shopping cart, and it'll actually give you the commands to install all those packages, whether you want specific versions of those packages, but not just for the command line, but also for integrations such as Ansible, Chef, Puppet, DSC. Was there one more in there as well? I think that was them all that's in that list. And it'll show you, for example, picking the Ansible one, because I know Ansible better than the others. If you want to install that shopping cart of packages, it will show you some playbook code that you can add that will actually allow you to do that. So you can just add them all in there, get that code, copy and paste it, put it into your playbook, bang, you're done. And, you know, to use that. So that's been really popular for people, particularly for people who are not as familiar with the command line, for example. So they're wondering about the commands to use, because Chocolatey is a very, very configurable, or Chocolatey CLI is a very, very configurable product. There are a lot of options, there's a lot of switches that you can add to do different things. And something as simple as just installing a particular version of a package can be difficult for some people because there are so many options. So just having that script builder option there that takes you through that process step by step, and then gives you the commands that you need to run to get those packages on there, saves you having to look through documentation and get up to speed with that. So it has saved a lot of people a lot of time. And as I said, with the integrations as well, it saves you having to go and understand the intricacies of the Chocolatey Ansible collection, or any collection that is in Ansible, for example. And you don't have to understand all that. You just maybe just have to understand how to put a playbook together, which is kind of 101 basics for Ansible. So it's Stephanie, who's our senior developer at Chocolatey Software. She'd actually put I would say all the work, to be fair. I was going to say the majority, but I'd say there was some help from other members of the Chocolatey team, because of the integrations, for example, the Ansible, Puppet, Chef, and DSC. So there was some code there and some understanding of that from the rest of the team. But Stephanie did the vast majority of that work, and does awesome work. Everything you see on the website, so Stephanie. as Gary said before, he can make things functional, but that doesn't mean it actually looks good and is very usable. But Stephanie does all that for us, so she does some awesome work. And Script Builder is her, but I was going to say her baby. Her, she put all that together. And with no work, I don't think you helped at all with that, Gary. Actually, did you?
I honestly can't remember. What I was going to say was I think we should apologize to Steph again, though, because the Script Builder functionality sat on the shelf for well over a year. It was ready for well over
2 years,
and for whatever reason, lots of reasons, we never got around to shipping it. So we finally got around to a point where we shipped it. So yeah, it's all credit to Steph, and yeah, apologies for not shipping it when it was actually ready. But we got there in the end.
It did, yeah. It did sit there for a long time. I think
Definitely almost 3.
Almost. I thought it was almost 2. So almost 3. Okay. And I was going to say as well. I think we shipped it in like February, I want to say, but it was under a kind of preview, so it was there available on the website, but we were taking feedback from people, so we didn't want to officially announce it was released until we had taken that feedback, tweaked it, changed it, and then we were happy with it, and so was everybody else. So as I said, I think it went out the door in February, but was officially released in April, once everybody was happy. But we also, in April as well, we also released 1.01 and 1.10 of Chocolatey CLI, and also 4.1.0 of Chocolatey Licensed Extension. And you're wondering what all these versions are and what all the release notes are, what all the, we're only talking about little bits of the feature set and potentially bug fixes. They're all on the docs website. You go to docs.chocolatey.org, and on the left hand side there's a list of products. For example, Chocolatey CLI, just open the little drop down and you'll see, I think it's right at the top, it says release notes, and you can actually go through all of them and see what it is, what we actually changed and what we released and what bugs we'd fixed and all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, so we released those versions as well early April, and that was our first version releases since the birthday live stream at the end of March this year. So moving on to May the 5th. It's not May the 4th, unfortunately. It was May the 5th. And that was our first coffee break live stream as well. And that's where myself, Gary, and Kim talked about the Chocolatey community. So this was us starting to talk about what we do in the Chocolatey community, how important it was to us, and we'll reiterate a little bit that in a second, and espousing the importance of getting involved in the community as well. So we've talked as well about the Chocolatey community Chocolatey packages repository, which has, I think it's around 400 packages in there. That there's a small number of active maintainers in there that kind of maintain those packages. They're all updated automatically. And they all do fantastic work. Kim, we talked about, or I mentioned, Kim is heavily involved in that. We've got some other names as well. From the Chocolatey team, we've got James is in there. I'm in there occasionally, not so much. Gary's in there occasionally as well. We've got people like Red Baron in there, who's helping out. And a number of other maintainers as well that are looking after some of those packages. So it's great to see that, and it's great to see that the community is thriving in there. But yeah, Gary, so that was our first community live stream where we talked about all of this stuff. And I mean, we've talked about this several times, but we'll talk about it again. I came from the community. That's how I started at Chocolatey. I was a user of Chocolatey as far back as 2016, I think it was. So for I think between me, you and Kim, I was the one that started the latest, I think. But so I was involved in the community, and that's how I arrived at here being at Chocolatey Software. Gary, that was very much similar for you, wasn't it?
Very much so. Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say that I prefer the development side of Chocolatey as opposed to the package maintenance side of Chocolatey. But I did a little bit of package maintenance back in the day. I don't do much anymore for various reasons, mainly because I get told that my PowerShell isn't very good. So that has an impact on someone's confidence for package maintenance. But no, I started in the community, helping out where I could. and I then obviously became so I obviously work full-time for Chocolatey as you do, but my problem initially, and what I had to explain to my better half, was where the delineation between, well, this is a thing that you were working on in your spare time of an evening, and now you're doing it full-time as a job, but you're still doing it in the evening as well. How does that work? But there is a clear delineation between kind of commercial based stuff and product based stuff that is what I get paid for, and the stuff that I contribute to of an evening or a weekend. But yeah, I've always enjoyed doing it. I've always enjoyed being part of the community and getting to know folks. And it's been great over the years being able to meet folks in person that I've only ever met on Twitter or on GitHub or talking on issues and pull requests, especially at a WinOps conference that both you and I went to, where we got to meet 3 or 4 or 5 people from the community. So it's been great fun and getting to know them and being with them and speaking to them. So yeah, no, it's a big part of why I get involved in Chocolatey and continue to be involved in it.
I think going back to that stream we had as well, Kim was very much of the same opinion. When he came from the community as well, works for Chocolatey Software. But I think he was talking about when people started. I think, was he earlier than you, or was, not that this is a competition?
I don't remember, to be honest. I don't know if Kim's on the chat to. I mean, I was around 2013 when I made my first kind of contribution to Chocolatey. Kim would have been a little bit later than that, maybe, if I recall correctly. I remember some of the names from the community that I have kind of since stepped away from it. But I think Kim might have been a little bit later, but I might be lying. Yeah, 2013 was my first contribution.
Okay.
That was my PR that got closed because it needed to be redone. That was my first foray into a Chocolatey community contribution. My PR got closed and I had to redo it, but it was fun anyway. It was fun to get involved. It's very much stumping out my Git usage was very much driven by contributing into Chocolatey, where I learned how to use Git, to be honest. So it's been fun from that point of view. But yeah, Kim, I don't actually know. I'm curious if he's listening. But yeah, it would have been very close, I think. Actually, who you got? I'm gonna see when his.
While you're looking at that, I was going to say that somebody's mentioned in the chat, there's when I was talking about, there's a lot of options and switches for Chocolatey CLI, and sometimes it can be overwhelming if you're digging through them. There's 142 options and switches for Chocolatey CLI. So that's that kind of backs up what I was saying. Okay. Did you find it?
I didn't. I'm not finding any but then the thing is that he might not have had a code contribution in and around that time, but certainly from a maintainer point of view, he would have been thoroughly involved. But no, I'm not finding anything immediately that would answer that question.
Okay. That's cool. Where were we? May. So we're on June now. So we had a product live stream in June, and it was the Chocolatey for Business Azure environment. So we had 2 releases of that, and we were really talking about those releases. And that was myself, James, and Josh. So James and Josh are really the ones that have pioneered, I think is the best description, or Chocolatey for Business in Azure environment. So what we have there is we have a marketplace offering that has one virtual machine that has everything on it that you need for Chocolatey for Business. So on there has Chocolatey for Business itself, Chocolatey CLI, Chocolatey License Extension. There's Chocolatey Central Management on there as well to be able to manage your nodes, be able to manage deployments in those nodes, be able to manage the software that's on those nodes, and run ad hoc PowerShell and commands on those nodes as well. That's what Chocolatey Central Management do. And reporting on that as well, PDF reports, Excel reports, etc. I'm kind of condensing it right down. It does lots, but I'm condensing that down. So that's in there. And there's also Nexus in there as well. Nexus, Sonatype Nexus is a package manager repository, package repository, not package manager, package repository that stores packages. So in this case, Chocolatey packages. So that would be on there as well. And we've also got Jenkins on there for part of that automation. So as part of that, you can bring packages down from the community repository. So let's say Notepad++, lots and lots of people use that. You can bring that down, keep that in your Sonatype Nexus repository, and then Jenkins can automatically keep that up to date as well. So when a new version is released, bring that down, bring it into your repository. So we have that offering in Azure, and James and Josh have really moved forward with that. So the releases we were talking about in June were 0.14.0 and 0.15.0. I think we're at 0.17.0 at the moment. Oh, that was the last one, I think, or was it 16? Somebody correct me in the chat, or Gary. It was one of those two. I'm not sure if we're doing 17 and we'd release 16 or we've done 17. Numbers sometimes, there's that many versions, that many products, my head hurts sometimes, but anyway. So yeah, we were on talking about those new releases and talking about the features and the bug fixes and the changes that have been made to that marketplace offering. And what we tend to do as well is when we release a new version of Chocolatey CLI or Chocolatey Licensed Extension or Chocolatey Central Management, soon after it, we release a new version of the Chocolatey for Business Azure environment as well, because obviously we want to release that with those latest product updates. Somebody's just confirmed 0.17.0 was released in October, so I was correct. So we've had two versions since June, and we'll be releasing another version next year as well when we update CLI, as I said, Chocolatey Central Management or Chocolatey Licensed Extension. And we're also going to be moving forward with additional features for that as well. So we try and tie it all together and do our create a release from there. So that takes us on to July. So we're just over half the year through there. And we did a product live stream with Manfred Wallner. A bit like Gary and I, Manfred is a long time contributor to the community. He is probably, I don't think it's unfair to say at the moment. So Box Starter was created originally by Matt Rock, and Matt handed that over to Chocolatey as we were in a better place to kind of maintain it, because Box Starter, what it does is it makes Chocolatey reboot resilient. So if you're installing a big list of packages, let's say you've got a new machine, you're installing a big list of packages and changing configurations on the machine so that you go away, grab a coffee, come back in like 2 hours and it's done. Well, Box Starter will actually restart Chocolatey in between that when it needs, not Chocolatey, restart your computer in between that when it needs restarted. So you come back and it's all done. It does other things as well. Don't get me wrong, but that's kind of what we were focusing on primarily, is to make Chocolatey reboot resilient. So Manfred has really been responsible for version 3, which is the latest version of Chocolatey. So Manfred Wallner, who when did we chat with Manfred? We chatted with Manfred in August, and we chatted with David Gardner as well. We chatted with David Gardner in November, was just recently. Both of them are maintainers of Box Starter. Manfred's done a lot of the code for version 3, and we did a beta release for that in July, I think it was actually late June, early July, and we actually released the stable version on July the 14th. So Box Starter version 3 is out and about. So that was really good to talk to him about that and see about all the changes and updates that were coming through for it. Gary, you were involved in that as well. What are the big things, for Box Starter for you? Not necessarily for the new version, but just in general.
And so the main driving force behind the release that Manfred made was that in previous versions of Box Starter, it was Box Starter shipped its own version of Chocolatey, so it was essentially coupled to a specific version of Chocolatey. So even if you had a newer version of Chocolatey physically installed on the box, because we shipped a version of Chocolatey inside Box Starter, it used that one. So it meant you couldn't take advantage of some of the newer functionality that came in newer versions of Chocolatey within Box Starter. So Manfred basically found a way to utilize functionality within Chocolatey via extension packages to allow Box Starter to still do what it needed to do, i.e. to tap into Chocolatey to figure out when a reboot was needed and do that operation, but do that using the system installed version of Chocolatey rather than shipping a new an embedded version. So that decoupling means that we can do more now within Boxstarter. And I know that Manfred has some plans for what he wants to do with it and where he wants to take it. So it's going to be interesting to see where he actually ends up with that. Like some other folks, Manfred has life things going on just now as well. That means his time is limited. But yeah, I'll be watching with interest to see where he takes that and how we can help, because it is very much being driven by the community at the minute, Boxstarter. But because of the way that we ship it, there's still going to need to be involvement from us in terms of signing the executables and making sure that folks can know that it's the official and authentic version that's being used. So still involvement from us, but it's very much been driven by David and Manfred going forward. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they take it.
The version of Chocolatey that was embedded in Boxstarter was 0.10.7. So I don't know when that was released. I don't know the year, but it was probably about 4 or 5 years old, from today. So yeah, even if it's, I wouldn't be far off the mark for say 4 or 5 years old. So yeah, being able to use the latest version of Chocolatey opens up all sorts of possibilities for Boxstarter that wouldn't have been possible continuing to use that embedded version. It just wouldn't be possible.
2017.
2017. Okay, so that's 5 years. So I was right. 5 years old. What we also did, we did a kind of overview of the community coffee break live stream in July. So we started the very first one in May. We didn't do one in June, and then we did one in July. And that one again was really just talking about the community and talking to the community about what was going on. So we had some plans about what we wanted to do with the coffee break streams as we were getting further on. But they were all very new because that was only the second one. So we were trying to kind of really feel our way in what the community wanted, what we wanted to do, and kind of where we wanted to take them. So that was very much just a general overview of what was going on in the community in July. And then in August, we did another product live stream as we're kind of getting into the flow of those ones, the first Thursday of the month. And we talked about the future of Chocolatey CLI and where we wanted to take things and really what plans we had that we could share for the future. And one of the things we don't do so much of is stamping things on a roadmap. That's not because we don't have plans. We do have plans. What we don't have, though, is what do we not have? We don't like to tell customers in the community something will be ready on a particular date. Because of software development and development we do, it's very fluid, and you could have customer requests coming in. It's all very much driven by customer and community feedback as well. So we could be doing one thing and the customers in the community want us to kind of look at something else, want us to bring something else in, and we look at the work that's required, and it might be more than we'd planned for, so things get moved out. And then if we move milestones out of the way, people get justifiably upset or annoyed or irritated that that thing that they were waiting for is suddenly not happening this year or in that month. Or so we tried very much to be very high level and talk about where we want to go, where we want to take things, as opposed to individual features, because that's where you can fall foul of stamping something down on a particular date and it's just not happening. Chocolatey Software as well. We're a small sort of family feel type organization where everybody knows everybody here, and we get on really well. So we're not a huge company. It's got 100 developers, 1,000 developers. We can't sort of spin off a team of developers to go and work in that project and that project. That's not how we work. So things are a little bit more fast and kind of fluid here when we're actually working on things driven, as I said, by our customers in the community. But having said all of that and kind of rambled on a little bit, we talked about the future of Chocolatey CLI, and that's really something that me and Gary talk about a lot. And I think you talked a lot as well in that video, Gary, about where we want to go in the future. And I don't know if you want to bring up maybe 1 or 2 points and kind of touch on them.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, once we got to that kind of baseline of 1.0 release, people knew what Chocolatey did, how it did it, etc. We could then start putting ideas in motion in terms of where we want to go next. So if anyone's following along on our repositories and looking at the issues that are being tagged with the milestones, etc., they'll know that the upcoming work on, say, V3 support. So what I mean by that is supporting both the current NuGet V2 OData implementation, as well as a new V3 API that anyone that's played with NuGet.exe knows that they can have a JSON-based endpoint rather than an OData-based endpoint. So that's coming down the pipe soon. We're actively working on that, so I'm excited to finally get that available to folks. But in order to allow that, there have been, it's not the end user is probably not going to care, but we have changed the base .NET framework version for all of the Chocolatey products now. So we've gone from a very, very old .NET 4.0 base framework, and we're moving it up to a .NET Framework 4.8, which is the latest and greatest version of the, I refer to it as the full-fat .NET Framework version. That's not .NET Core and the newer way of doing things, cross-platform or cross-operating system, but the full-fat .NET Framework version of 4.8. So we're lifting it up 4, 5, 6 major versions of the .NET CLR. So it's an exciting time. It's been something that's, again, it's been a long time coming, but there's underlying changes that need to happen there, changes in our infrastructure to make it all work and make sure that we're shipping something that works. So yeah, some of those things, and then other things coming down the pipe as well. There's lots of open pull requests. There's lots of issues that we want to get triaged and pulled in. So yeah, lots going on at the minute, and excited to see what's coming down with Chocolatey CLI. Yeah.
And the Chocolatey CLI is only one of the products that Chocolatey Software has. It's our core product, don't get us wrong, and all of our products rely on that, but we have many other products that sit on top of that. If you're an open source user, for example, you won't know, or you potentially won't know about the commercial side of Chocolatey and what we offer there, Chocolatey for Business, and the products that go into that. If you want to learn more about the commercial side, the licensed version of Chocolatey, then you can go to chocolatey.org, and you'll be able to look at the different options and the different solutions and the different ways that those Chocolatey products can help you. But we don't only do releases of Chocolatey CLI. There's lots of other ones. We've talked about Chocolatey GUI in here. I mentioned Chocolatey Agent a little bit, Chocolatey for Business Azure environment. We have other products as well that we need to work on too. So we can't devote all of our time to Chocolatey CLI. We have to split it out between those different products. So as I mentioned back in July, when we talked to Manfred Wallner about Boxstarter, we also chatted to him in our Chocolatey Community Coffee Break live stream in August. And we have a set of questions now that we ask all of our guests that come on, and we have a set of questions as well in honor of Richard Campbell from Run As Radio. We ask every guest, 4 set questions. I think it's 4 or 5 set questions about their favorite language, favorite IDE, their favorite chocolate biscuit, and the last one, which totally escapes me. But oh, that's right, it's that one. That's it. It didn't really escape. This is not shown up. I have to stop doing that. It's Gary's wrong pronunciation of NUPKG, Board of Shame. That's where we get the scores from. It's in that question in there. And that takes us into September. We only had a Chocolatey Coffee Break live stream in September. We didn't do a product live stream in September. And we were chatting with Maurice Kavanagh as well. Again, all about community, and we asked Maurice the same questions as well. Those 2 chats were fantastic. Manfred being the first one we'd done. Maurice, we'd kind of got into the swing of things a little bit more. And then we jumped on to November and we had a chat with David. We'll come to that in a little second. So in October, we had a product spotlight where we talked about Chocolatey Central Management 0.10.0. That was a huge release for us. A lot of work went into that. And yeah, we were really proud of the changes that went into that release. Gary, do you want to list a couple of those changes? Talk about them a little bit. Can you remember?
Sure. I mean,
back then,
I will certainly try my best. So no, as Paul said, it was a big release. There had been some previous releases of CCM, but those had been more aimed at kind of framework changes, going from an earlier version of .NET Core up to the newer version of .NET Core. We hadn't actually had an opportunity to provide any new functionality into Chocolatey Central Management in the way that we wanted to. So a couple of standout features was we added the ability to do recurring deployments. So previously you were able to create a deployment and potentially schedule a deployment. But what this allows you to do is to just do that same thing every week on a Friday at 3 p.m. You could do that. You could configure that deployment once, and then what it would do is the system would automatically create a new recurring deployment for the same time, but maybe a week in advance or a month in advance. However, you have got full control over how often that happens. We also provide the ability to duplicate an existing deployment. That was a long-term ask from folks. So they would go to all the they would go through all the steps. They would create the deployment exactly how they wanted to do it, and then they would need to do it again, but subtly different, as they have to do the whole thing again. So being able to duplicate a deployment, again, a long-term ask that people wanted to have. Another long-term ask that we got added in was the ability to have retention policies for computers. So if you've got an environment where computers come and go because you create it, you spin it up, and you then throw it away again, within CCM, that computer sticks around. It would always be there. So we added the ability to say that if a computer hasn't reported into CCM within an X amount of time, you automatically clean it up and remove it from CCM. So it's no longer under that management. Big shout out to Steph here. She had some help from me, let's be honest. We implemented a full light and dark mode within Chocolatey Central Management, where it very much similar to the light and dark modes that you get on our other website assets. So that shipped in this release. And the final one was we added in some API functionality to allow you to query information about how much licenses and how much machines are currently reporting into CCM. So those were the top kind of key features that shipped in 0.10.0, but there's a whole list. I'm not going to go through them all. There was 10, 12, 11, I don't know, lots of improvements and bug fixes that went into that release as well. But like I say, it was a solid scope of work, and everyone on the team was happy to finally ship some of those features that we wanted. There's another list of ones that we still want to do, but that'll be for a future release. But yeah, excited to get into that as well in the new year.
I think as well, it's not unfair to say that you were solely responsible for dark mode on one page.
I was. Yeah.
Gary told us all that he'd actually implemented dark mode. And it was, but as soon as you navigated to any other page than the one Gary demoed, it broke. So
the requirement was light and dark mode on that page. That's what the requirement was, and I did it. And I stick to it. And then I handed it over to Steph, and she finished it. So that's
what it was. Yeah. Yes. As Steph says in the chat, just don't click any buttons. Exactly. It looked great as long as you didn't want to do anything with them.
I think actually some of the buttons didn't work in my implementation either. They were there, but you couldn't click them, so it was fine.
It was actually just a picture, Gary, that you coloured in dark mode, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Paint. We saw it going over the lines. It was terrible. Yeah, so that was Gary's thing, dark mode in CCM. And in October we had a coffee break live stream, and I actually chatted with Gary, believe it or not, which we do all the time, but you know, you guys don't get to see that. So we asked Gary those questions that we asked Maurice and Manfred as well, including his favourite chocolate biscuit. I can't remember what your favourite chocolate biscuit was.
I got told I had a posh chocolatey favourite because I said I liked a breakaway. I quite partial to a breakaway, and you said that I was posh because that wasn't it was a posh biscuit. What you told me. So. Okay.
But you are fairly posh, so.
Although the wife has just recently been buying wagon wheels, and they're yummy.
And they're not as big as they were when I was young.
There
so
were.
I don't care what anybody says.
I don't know if the other folks on the other side of the pond know what a wagon wheel is, but
probably not.
It's quite tasty. Quite tasty. Lots of memories. That's what always used to be my granny's house when I used to go down to my granny's. That's what you get there. So.
But they were huge when you were young as well. They were huge biscuits.
They were.
Or maybe it's because I was much smaller. But anyway, we're talking about chocolate biscuits. We're not here to do that. So we're in October. We done the coffee break live stream with Gary. He was the worst guest that we'd had out of all the guests. Sorry, Gary. And the funny thing was we couldn't see you because you were all in dark mode. So there was that as well. Then we did some Hacktoberfest shenanigans in October. So if you don't know, October is Hacktoberfest month, where you can, or where you are encouraged to contribute to open source, to learn about learn about pull requests, and learn about the whole workings of doing that process. And here at Chocolatey, we wanted to do this for a while. We didn't manage to do it last year, but we did. And we did manage to do it this year, where we did some streams on Hacktoberfest things. So just quickly going over them. Corey and James did the first two. That was on October the 4th and October the 11th, where they looked at adding the Chocolatey license command to Chocolatey CLI. Rain looked at how we work with PRs, you know, how someone reviewing a PR looks at it, what they look for, and how they kind of work with those. And Rain also looked at some issues in the Chocolatey Ansible repository. And in October the 25th, Gary looked at the Chocolatey online switch for the help. So if you do, you know, Chocolate command to get help for that, Gary's added an online switch where that actually takes you to the web page for the help there. Rather than viewing it as a list of text in your console, you can get the whole viewing experience in your browser. So that we looked at there. So it was great that we managed to do the 4. So that's the 4th, 11th, 18th, and the 25th. And they're on our YouTube channel. If you go there, I will actually add them into a Hacktoberfest playlist. I haven't managed to do that yet, but I'll actually get that done, so they'll be easier to find. But if otherwise, they're under our live streams, and you can see them there. October the 5th, 11th, 18th, and 25th. And that takes us on to November. Just last month, just yesterday, in fact, was November. We did a product spotlight where we looked at hook scripts. Now, this is massive for Chocolatey CLI. This opens up a world of potential and being able to do things when you're running package installs and package upgrades for Chocolatey CLI. I'm going to let Gary talk about it because he has done more work in this area than I have, particularly at the moment where we're talking about kind of expanding our docs a little bit in that area. So Gary.
Yeah, so a hook script it's just that, it's a PowerShell script. And if you put that PowerShell script in a specific location on your Chocolatey folder on your machine, and you give it a specific name, Chocolatey at different points in its standard execution of an install, an upgrade, or an uninstall command, it will execute that script. So why would you want to do that? Because a Chocolatey package is just a PowerShell script. You could put whatever you want within that PowerShell script. Well, what it comes down to is that there are certain things that you might want to do all the time. So anytime you do an install, or anytime you do an upgrade, or anytime you want to do an uninstall, you want something to happen. Now, the token example that we've used in the example of a hook package that's actually been created and available in the community repository is a hook package that takes care of making sure that there are no desktop icons created on your desktop. So when you install a package, someone might have written a bit of PowerShell in one of those packages to create a shortcut on your desktop, or the application installer might have put the icon there as a result of installing the application. So what a hook script allows you to do in this context is essentially take a snapshot of all the icons that are on your desktop to start with, and then do the package installation, and then after the installation take another snapshot and then do a comparison. And if a new desktop shortcut was created, then the hook script will delete it. Okay, so that's just one example, but there's a myriad of things that you might want to do, and you can do it do this for every package that is installed, upgraded, or uninstalled, or you can do it for a specific package. So if there was something, let's say, as part of the installation, you wanted to send someone a message anytime a particular package was installed or uninstalled, a hook script provides that functionality. And a hook package is now a specifically handled package that Chocolatey knows about. So anytime you do an installation of a package that ends with the name .hook, then Chocolatey will extract those scripts into the right location so that they become part of the Chocolatey functionality. In the same way that a .extension package works, or a .template package works, it's the exact same thing. So I love this feature because it was driven completely by the community, one member in particular, but they looked at what was required in the issue. They provided an implementation. We went through some rounds of review. We added some testing, and we shipped this functionality. So it was great to see that kind of circle of community contributions coming into Chocolatey for something that's been asked for a long time. And it also has the side effect of closing off a bunch of issues that were open on the repository, because that functionality can now be provided within a hook package and can be iterated on much faster than what we can provide within Chocolatey.exe directly. So the example of that is there were some discussions recently on some issues where someone asked, well, what if I want to do this? And maybe I don't want to delete a shortcut that was created by this package. Well, you could then create a whitelist of packages that you don't want those hooks to interact with. So it's functionality that can be added into the hook package and iterated on much quicker and for specific reasons than we can do within Chocolatey.exe directly. So it opens up a world of potential, and associated with that, we have created a community repository on the Chocolatey community GitHub organization. And the idea is there that ideally any hook packages will end up in that repository, so we can establish best practices and ways of doing things so that there's consistency across those hook packages. So yeah, an exciting feature, and I'm genuinely looking forward to seeing where the community takes that functionality.
And I agree with Gary. The biggest thing about hook scripts is the fact that it was completely community driven. The cake put all of the PRs in together, put all of the code together, put all the work into testing all of that as well, and created the first hook package as well, that desktop cleanup hook package that Gary had talked about. So all of that work was done by them, and we're really grateful to the cake. They've been in the community for I was going to say a short time, but I think short time compared to maybe the Chocolatey team, for example. You know, we're talking about 2016 for me. I don't think the cake has been in the community that long, but what I'm trying to say is their contribution far outweighs the amount of time that they've been in the community, and it's fantastic to see. We're really, really proud that we have a community that will do that for the benefit of the community. So thank you for that, the cake. So the final community coffee break of the year was with David Gardner. We talked earlier on about Box Starter, and David has been one of the maintainers of the Box Starter project for some time, along with Manfred. And we had a great chat with David. David's from Australia, so we had to do the chat in the morning, our time in the UK. Myself and Gary are in the UK in Scotland. We had to do the chat at 10 a.m. In our time, 10 a.m. UK time, and then we streamed it at our normal time again. So what you seen at our normal time, which was 5 p.m. UTC, was just a recording from that earlier on. So we did 2 streams that day. So I'm only calling it 1 for the stats, but we did the 2 that day, and that was a great chat. I really, really enjoyed that, and it was, I think that was the interesting one for me, was the chocolate biscuit again. I think it was Tim Tams. And we had a Tim Tam. What was the name of the thing?
Tim Tam Slam.
Slam, that was it. Which I was convinced wasn't a thing and David made up. But no, apparently it is an actual thing. It's on YouTube. If you want to see people doing it. There's videos and everything. So Tim Tam Slam, it's an actual thing. So that was, for me, the interesting part of that. The rest of it I'd forgotten by that point because I was too focused on the fact that you had a biscuit and it was a slam to get it there. So that was great. And that was the last one of the year. So we're almost at time now, and given that we'd actually started later, we're just a little bit over time. But we've had a great 12 months here at Chocolatey. It's been really, really exciting for everything that's happened with both the community and in our products. And next year, we're going to not have any live streams in January. We're going to take a little bit of a break because we're going to come back from Christmas and New Year. And, you know, we're going to get ramped back up to speed again. And we're going to start again with our live streams in February. I don't actually have the date to hand. I should have looked that up, but it'll be the first Thursday in February, which is the 2nd of February. And that will be a product spotlight. And we're also going to look at the 16th of February for our coffee break live stream as well. And we'll hopefully have someone exciting and interesting to talk to, and it won't be me, because I haven't done. We've chatted with Gary, I haven't chatted with me yet. So hopefully it won't be me. But yeah, that'll be really exciting. Gary, is there anything over the last 12 months that's kind of jumped out at you that if you had to say this is the one thing over the last 12 months for me that you know that the most the thing that jumps out, the thing that's exciting, the thing that kind of waves as flags? And
I mean, there's been a couple of things. I mean, it's been great to see Chocolatey Community Repository went over 2 billion downloads recently, so that number keeps ticking over. So that's just kind of testimony to the website, the popularity of the website, and people downloading packages. But to that, I mean, it's only just recently happened, and it's a testimony to, again, Josh and James, who we spoke about earlier. But we have just recently fundamentally changed our underlying infrastructure for the Chocolatey Community Repository, and it went off without a hitch. That we've seen so far. That has been something that's been spoken about since I started full-time with the company, and probably before that also. But it came to a head and we did it. So yeah, that was a standout moment. But they flipped the switch and it just worked from what I've seen. So yeah, no, that was a big one, because it kind of sets us up to do other stuff that we wanted to do again on the CCR. So all of these this year for me has been very much about getting all of our ducks in a row in terms of how we test things, how we ship things, how we sign things, getting it to a point where there's not as much of a reliance on one individual in the team for doing something. So yeah, now that we have this solid baseline for that, I'm again building on top of that is it's only going to be better going into next year. So there's still some challenges ahead, but I think we have put ourselves in a position where we can deliver much faster on what we're shipping. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Just looking at the community package installs, it's 2.1 billion at the moment. So we've had an extra 101 million over and above that 2 billion that you mentioned. For me, what I wanted to say before we finish is that Chocolatey is not just me and Gary that you see here, and we've seen Kermie, you've seen Corey and James. There's a lot of people in Chocolatey that make the product, but also support the product. We're all part of a team that makes sure that you get to use Chocolatey, all of the products, and you also get the best experience that you can. We've got Stevie, Chris and Ryan in support. So if you're a licensed customer, you've had any queries, you've got any issues, you will reach out to our support team, and Stevie, Ryan and Chris will be one of them will pick that support ticket up and communicate with you on that. So you no doubt have come into contact with them. We've got the engineering team as well. We've mentioned James and Josh. We've got Kim. We've mentioned Stephanie as well. We've got Corey, and we've got I think I mentioned James and Josh. Yeah, James and Josh as well. Am I missing anybody? We mentioned Rain. I mentioned Rain as well earlier on. So yeah, we've got the team there that kind of engineer the products and keep those going. And we've got Tyler and Brandy in sales as well, in renewals and sales, that if you're again looking for a Chocolatey licensed version, or you're looking for some queries round about that as well, then you'll speak to either Tyler or Brandy about that stuff. And we've got Rob as well, our founder and our CEO, and we've also got Jessica in the back doing all of our admin and doing a fantastic work in HR and a lot of the admin stuff. You actually go on to see our 11th birthday live stream, you'll see everybody. I'm not doing justice for everybody's roles. We all work really hard and we all do what needs to be done, as opposed to being siloed in particular areas. So it's fantastic to work for a team, or with a team that is passionate about a product and is passionate about a team and doing best for everybody. It really is good to be part of that. For us, as I mentioned, we have got our December Chocolatey month webinar with Veeam on the 13th of December. That'll be myself and Gary that'll be on there, and we'll be doing an AMA session, which is Ask Me Anything about Chocolatey, on there with Maurice Kevinar, who, as I said, we spoke to in September. And then we've got Christmas and we've got New Year, and then we're back in January, and we'll be back in the live streams on the 2nd and the 16th of February. So I want to say from all of us, have a great Christmas. Have a great new year. And we will be back working as a team in January, as I said, and we'll be back with you in February on the live stream. Gary, do you want to say anything before we finish up?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. So yeah, wish everyone a happy Christmas and a Merry New Year. I probably got that the wrong way. So a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, I think, is how you're meant to say it. But no, other than that, like I say, I'm excited for next year. So keep an eye out for all the stuff that's coming down the pipe.
Awesome. Thank you for your help in all of these. Or what was it? Your co-hosting abilities in all of these as well. You keep me straight, but you didn't notice that I was actually live streaming when I wasn't live streaming earlier on. So I'm going to have to believe that one. But subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Twitch. If you hit the bell on YouTube as well, you get notifications when we're actually streaming. It's awesome to have you with us, and we will see you all in February. Take care. Have a great Christmas. Have a great New Year, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.